October the 9th, 1972. A brand new Rolls-Royce, parked on a quiet street. Behind the wheel, a man in a tailored suit, 32 years old, diamond jewelry on his hands worth close to $10,000. Someone walks up to the window, shot in the back of the head. The jewelry stripped off his body before the engine even stopped running. The man behind the wheel is Frank Ward, the most powerful pimp in Oakland, the godfather of the underworld, a man so famous in this city that a Major League Baseball star once put his family's name on the stadium scoreboard during a live game. But here is why you are hearing this story. At the moment he was killed, a Hollywood movie based on his life was still being filmed. He had paid for part of it with his own money. He had walked onto the set and played himself on camera. He had given the director access to a world no outsider had ever been allowed to see. The film was called The Mack. It came out 5 months after his body was pulled from that Rolls-Royce. It made millions. It launched careers. It became one of the most iconic black films ever made. Jay-Z sampled it, Tupac quoted it. Too Short built an entire career on the archetype it created. And the man it was based on was already in the ground. He never saw the movie. He never heard the applause. He never knew that the word Mack would outlive him by half a century. This is that story. Uniontown, Alabama, 1940. Frank Ward is born into a family of sharecroppers. Black, deep south, cotton and red clay and nothing else. A large family and every child works the farm. But Frank's parents see something in him, something different, and they make a decision that changes the trajectory of his entire life. They send him to California for a better education. In school, Frank excels. He is smart. He is a star on the track team. He is the kind of kid teachers point to and say, "That one is going somewhere," but school does not pay. And in the 11th grade, Frank Ward drops out. He starts hustling in Los Angeles, selling jewelry on the streets with his 4 brothers, who had already moved to California before him. For years, the Ward brothers make good money. Frank has a girlfriend. He has his first son at 19. Life is moving, but Los Angeles starts getting hot. The police are cracking down on hustlers. Men are getting arrested, and a pattern starts to form. Guys from Los Angeles are taking their girlfriends up north to Oakland to get into the pimp game, because Oakland in that era is a different kind of city. On one side, Oakland is being recognized worldwide as the birthplace of the Black Panther Party. Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, revolution in the streets. But there is another side, the underworld, the gangsters, the dealers, the pimps, the streetwise businessmen who set up shop in the shadows. A place where making money is the only thing that matters. In 1964, Frank Ward walks into Oakland's underworld, and pimping comes to him like he was born for it. He is nonviolent, charismatic, well-spoken, charming in a way that most men in his line of work are not. Women do not have to be convinced. They ask to be with him. Within months, Frank has almost a dozen women living in his apartment and working for him. And this is the part that separates Frank Ward from every pimp before or after him. He does not rule through fear. He does not beat his women. He does not threaten, terrorize, or intimidate. He rules through magnetism, through the kind of charm that makes a woman look at every other man in the room and decide none of them compare, through a presence that is impossible to teach and impossible to fake. The old heads in Oakland will tell you, on camera, decades later, that Frank Ward had something no one else in the game had. He was the kind of man who could have been anything: a politician, a businessman, a preacher. That intelligence, that ability to read a room and own it without raising his voice, that is not a pimp's skill. That is a leader's skill. And Frank Ward used it in the only arena America offered him in 1964 Oakland. And then his brothers follow, all of them. Every Ward brother moves to Oakland and gets into the game. People start calling them the Ward brothers, and they take over. Their territory is 7th Street, West Oakland, the kind of street that never goes to sleep, lined with restaurants, nightclubs, pool halls. After hours, the speakeasies open. The underground gambling rooms light up. Money moving in every direction, in every pocket, on every corner, from sundown to sunup. All of Frank's girls work on 7th Street, and over the years they make him very rich. A home in the hills, not the flats, the hills, where the views are and the police are not. Tailor-made suits with silk shirts, diamond jewelry that catches the light from across the room. Custom cars, only custom. Frank Ward does not drive a car off a lot. Every vehicle is built to his specifications, and he is known around town for giving out $100 bills as tips. At restaurants, at clubs, at barbershops. $100 handed to a waiter or a bartender, the way most men leave a $5. That is Frank Ward's calling card. A $100 handshake in the 1960s in Oakland. And here is a detail that tells you exactly how famous the Ward brothers become. Ted Ward, Frank's brother, is tight with Reggie Jackson, the Reggie Jackson, one of the most famous baseball players in America. And Jackson arranges for the electronic scoreboard at the Oakland Coliseum to display a message during a live game. Welcome to the Ward brothers, a major league stadium, 40,000 people, a pimp family's name in lights. That is not street fame. That is something else entirely. By 1968, Frank takes it further. He creates the Players Convention, a gathering where pimps from across California come together to give out an award for Pimp of the Year. Frank Ward invents an awards show for the street, a ceremony, with categories, with winners, a night where the men who run the underground dress in their finest and celebrate what they have built. And Frank does not just attend, he hosts, he organizes, he turns pimping into an event, a spectacle, something the city looks forward to. The Players' Convention becomes legendary in Oakland. It runs for years. And here is what you have to understand about what Frank Ward is doing, because it separates him from every other man in his position. Most pimps stay in the shadows. They make their money, they keep their heads down, they hope the law does not notice them. Frank does the opposite. He steps into the light. He builds a public image. He makes himself visible on purpose because he understands something most men in his world never figure out. Visibility is protection. When the mainstream media writes about you, when baseball stars put your name on a scoreboard, when everyone in the city knows your face, you become harder to touch. Nobody moves on the man the whole city is watching. That is the theory. And for a while, it works. Frank starts buying property, opens shops, builds a portfolio that, on paper, looks like a legitimate businessman's holdings. He is washing his money the smart way, turning street cash into real estate and storefronts and the kind of paper trail that gives a man options if the game ever turns on him. By 1970, everyone in Oakland knows the Ward brothers, not just the streets. The mainstream media writes articles about them. 5 blood brothers, all pimps, all running together. People are fascinated. Television crews come to 7th Street to film them. Reporters write feature stories. The Ward brothers become celebrities of the underworld, famous and feared in equal measure. And Frank is the center of all of it. The best dressed, the smoothest talker, the one who walks into a room and the room goes quiet, not out of fear, but out of respect. Because Frank Ward is not a violent pimp. He does not beat his women. He does not threaten people. He wins by being the most magnetic man in every room he enters. That is his power, and that is his curse, because the same visibility that protects him is also painting a target on his back that gets bigger every year. And then Frank Ward's fame reaches a place he never expected, behind prison walls. In 1971, an inmate named Bobby P. is sitting in his cell at San Quentin State Prison, and he writes a movie script on prison toilet paper. Prison toilet paper. That is what the screenplay is written on. The script is called The Mack and His Pack. It is loosely based on the life of Frank Ward, a story about a man named Goldie who gets out of prison and becomes the biggest Mack in Oakland. Bobby P. gets the script to movie producers on the outside. They read it, they like it, but they have one condition: Frank Ward has to be involved. Because the producers understand something: you cannot make a movie about the Oakland underworld without the man who runs the Oakland underworld. You do not point a camera at a world you do not own without asking the man who does. So they go to Frank, and Frank agrees. He gives the director and the producer something they could never have gotten without him: access, real access, to the underworld, to the pimps, the hustlers, the women, the after-hours spots, the corners and clubs that no outsider has ever been allowed to see. In exchange, Frank gets a role in the film, and he gets paid as a consultant, but he gives them more than access. He gives them protection. His crew keeps the set safe in neighborhoods where a film production would be robbed clean in an hour. Without Frank's men, the cameras do not roll. Without his name on the project, no one on 7th Street lets the outsiders through. He gives them his wardrobe, his actual suits, shoes, and hats. The film's wardrobe coordinator, a man named Nate Adams, builds the costumes from the real thing. When the actor playing Goldie walks into a scene dressed like a king, those are Frank Ward's real clothes on another man's body. He gives them his cars, his real fleet. On camera, every vehicle you see in the Mack belongs to someone who is actually in the game. He gives them his people, not actors, real pimps, real hustlers, real women from the life. The extras in the Mack are not performing, they are living. That is why the film feels different from every other movie of that era. The scenes in the bars, the clubs, the streets, those are real people in their real world, caught on film because Frank Ward opened the door and let the cameras in. The production is guerrilla style. No union crew. Almost entirely black and Puerto Rican technicians behind the camera at a time when Hollywood will not let black people touch the equipment. It is one of the first major films ever made with a predominantly non-white technical crew. That detail alone makes it historic. But nobody talks about it because the story in front of the camera is louder than the story behind it, and he gives them himself. Frank Ward appears in the movie. He is in the barbershop scene. He is in the Players' Ball scene where Goldie wins Mack of the Year. Frank came in second, a real pimp, in a movie based on his life, losing a fictional award to the actor pretending to be him. Max Julien, the actor playing Goldie, studies Frank to build the character. He watches how Frank moves, how he pauses before he speaks, how a room rearranges itself when he walks through the door. Julien absorbs it all and puts it on screen. And Richard Pryor is there too. Third, build, playing a character called Slim. Pryor is brilliant. He is also out of control. Cocaine is eating him alive. He misses calls, disappears for days. And on at least one occasion, Julien has to physically stop Pryor from attacking the producer with a sock full of ball bearings. That is the set of the Mack. Real pimps, real hustlers, a cocaine-fueled comedian with a weapon, and the man the whole movie is based on, standing right there, watching Hollywood try to capture his life. But there is a problem the production cannot solve. The movie is being made in Black Panther territory. One night, Bobby Seale, co-founder of the Black Panthers, bursts into the hotel room of the film's producer. He demands $5,000 for making the movie in Panther territory. The producer writes a check. The check bounces. The next day, the Black Panthers show up on set, throwing bottles, throwing glass. The film crew has to run for cover. When Frank finds out, he is furious. He tells the director that from now on, he will be on set personally to make sure nothing like that happens again. But Frank Ward does not get to keep that promise. October the 9th, 1972, halfway through the filming of the movie, Frank Ward is sitting in his new Rolls-Royce, shot in the back of the head, killed at 32 years old, his jewelry stripped from his body. The rumors start immediately. Some point the finger at Huey Newton. The Black Panthers had been in conflict with the production for weeks. Frank had been blocking their extortion. The motive is there. Others say it was a product deal gone wrong. Others say it was a robbery brought on by Frank's flashy lifestyle and the diamonds he wore everywhere he went. The theories are endless, and that is exactly the problem, because no one was ever charged. No one was ever convicted. The murder of Frank Ward is unsolved to this day. After Frank's death, the cast and crew flee Oakland. They finish the film in Los Angeles, afraid for their lives. Huey Newton insists that the proceeds from the Oakland premiere go to the Black Panthers community programs. The Panthers get their money after all. The Mack is released in 1973. The opening credits carry a tribute to Frank Ward, and the film explodes. Made for under $1 million, it earns millions. It becomes one of the most important black films ever made. More authentic than Shaft, more raw than Superfly. Because the Mack is not a Hollywood fantasy. It is the streets of Oakland on film, performed by the people who actually live there. And here is what makes the legacy so painful. The Mack changes everything for the people in it. Mack's Julien becomes a cultural icon. He is Goldie forever. When he dies in January of 2022, at 88 years old, the tributes pour in from every corner of hip-hop. But Julien would be the first to tell you, he did not create Goldie, he borrowed him from a dead man. Richard Pryor, the man who nearly destroyed the production with cocaine and a sock full of ball bearings, goes on to become the most famous comedian in the history of America. His performance as Slim is still studied 50 years later. The dialogue becomes gospel, sampled by rappers for the next half-century. Too Short, from Oakland, builds his entire career on the pimp archetype the Mack defines. He takes Frank Ward's world and turns it into platinum records. Jay-Z samples it, Tupac quotes it, Snoop, Ice Cube, E40, Master P. The lines spoken by real pimps and real hustlers in a low-budget Oakland film become the most sampled dialogue in rap history outside of James Brown. The fashion comes back. The suits, the hats, the alligator shoes. Every pimp-themed music video of the 90s and 2000s traces its visual language back to what Frank Ward and his brothers wore on camera in 1972. The word Mack itself goes global because of this movie. It is still in the dictionary. It is still in every rapper's vocabulary. And it traces back through the film to one man leaning back in a barbershop chair in Oakland, saying words the whole world would eventually learn. And the Ward brothers, what happens to them after Frank? They scatter. Ted Ward, Frank's closest brother, his right hand, relocates out of Oakland. The other brothers spread out across the country. Without Frank, there is no center. Without the king, the court collapses. The 7th Street Kingdom, the fleet of custom cars, the women who lined up, the $100 tips, the scoreboard at the Coliseum, all of it dissolves within months of the murder. Because the empire was never the empire. The empire was the man, and the moment the man stopped breathing, everything he built went with him. Carol Speed, the actress who played Lulu in the film, had been in a relationship with Frank during the shoot. His murder destroys her. She leaves California entirely, flees to Kentucky, takes a role in a low-budget horror film just to put as much distance between herself and Oakland as possible. The director, Michael Campus, finishes the film in Los Angeles, 300 miles from the city where it was born. He never makes another film that matters. He dies in 2015, and the murder of Frank Ward remains exactly where it was the day after it happened. Unsolved. No arrest, no conviction, no justice. Over 50 years of silence. An author named Chloe Silvers spent years digging into the case for a book called The Fabulous Ward Brothers. Her investigation pointed away from the Black Panthers and toward a different set of suspects entirely. But the family, by most accounts, does not want the full truth told. And the Oakland police in 1972 were not breaking down doors to solve the murder of a black pimp, no matter how famous he was. So the case sits, cold, the way it has been since the day Frank Ward's blood dried on the seat of that Rolls-Royce. In a 2002 documentary about the making of the film, the director Michael Campus and the star Mack Julien both speak on the kind of person Frank Ward was. Both of them agree. He could have been anything. He could have been whatever he wanted in life. He was an extraordinary human being. Frank could have been anything he wanted to be. But Frank Ward became a pimp. And a pimp became a legend. And a legend was killed before the world ever got to meet him. In the barbershop scene of the Mack, Frank Ward leans back in the chair and says his only line, "I do mine from Frisco to Maine." You know how that is. 5 months later, the audience heard it for the first time. Frank Ward had been dead since October.